or to repeat something, please don't take offense, because the truth is they're trying to connect with you heart to heart.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Simplifying Life with Kashira. I'm excited to introduce a guest who is making a significant impact in the realm of professional communication. Joining us today is Anne Maki, a highly respected American accent coach and corporate speech trainer with over 30 years of experience. She's a founder of Clear Speech Specialist, and Anne is dedicated to guiding non-native English speakers in dealing through the intricacies of American English pronunciation. Anne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Kashira. This is such an honor to be on with you. I'm excited.
Oh my God, I am super excited. I've been really looking forward to this evening. So, for everybody to fill in, we met last week, and Anne and we were supposed to connect just for a quick intro for 10-15 minutes, and we spent almost 60 minutes. And you
Yes.
can't imagine what a wonderful conversation it was that I couldn't deprive my audience from having some bits of it. And hence we are here.
Oh, how wonderful. Yes, we have so many things in common. It was wonderful. You know, when you find those human beings that you just connect with and you feel like a heart-to-heart connection, it's just so special. And that's exactly how I feel about you. So thank you for making time to meet me last week.
Thank you. Thank you. So grateful. Okay, and so it says you're a speech pathologist.
hmm That's right.
And to be honest, I have never heard about this word, and I'd love to understand from you what does it mean? Who is speech pathologist? What they do? If you could tell us a bit about it.
Absolutely. And I don't know, maybe there isn't someone who has this sort of career in India or in other
Mhm.
countries. I'm not familiar with which do and which do not. But my background, I have a master's degree in speech pathology. And what that means is that I have studied the realm of human communication. And through my master's degree, I was taught about communication disorders. So this is someone who maybe has had a stroke, or they've had a vehicle accident and they maybe have trouble with their cognition, their thinking, their memory, those sorts of things. Someone who has a voice disorder, I can help them with their clarity of their voice, if it's
Mhm.
gravelly or garbled or not loud enough, those sorts of things. So this entire huge realm of the things that help us communicate as human beings, there is an entire industry to help people with disordered language or communication. It could be with adults, it could be with children that struggle to keep up with their milestones for language development and that sort of thing. I've always focused on medical speech pathology, working in hospitals, head injury clinics with laryngectomies. That's when you have to
Mhm.
have the voice box removed because of cancer, things of that nature. So that's my background of 30 years. But
Mhm.
then 20 years ago, I had a unique opportunity to kind of shift and add something on the side, which is the accent training. It came to me out of the blue when someone asked me to help with her accent.
Oh, wow. That's a wonderful work. I never heard about speech pathologist, and that's really amazing thing that you are doing actually. And you're right. I don't know if we have such specialist here out in India.
hmm
Uh, I don't know many people are even aware of it that there is such kind of a help. So
Yes.
is it like more into medical, like surgical or something? How is
It,
it?
there are opportunities to specialize in many different areas. So the medical background of medical speech pathology, I would work with people who have had medical conditions that have caused their communication problems. So it would be, say, a motor vehicle accident. They fell off their motorcycle, hit their head on the curb, and now they can't function, they can't walk, they can't talk, they can't speak, and communicate their needs, that sort of thing. So that's people who end up in the hospital because of a stroke or whatever, maybe even Parkinson's disease, if you've heard of that. That can contribute to weakness of the muscles around the mouth, so their speech is slurred or things like that. So we tone up the muscles for speaking, and we work on the thinking skills and memory skills and that sort of thing to basically get them functioning again back into their life after some unfortunate event that was medical that compromised their communication communication. It's just a fascinating field, and there's so many
Yeah.
options, to work with children, to work with adults, to work in medical, to work in school systems. So it's a very rich, varied profession, and it has given me a tremendous background about anatomy, of the head and neck, for the speaking,
Yeah.
for the lungs, for voice volume, for the voice being on and off for various speech sounds that we might need to polish. And then, of course, the lips and tongue, the articulators, we call that we use to make the American English speech sounds that many other languages don't have. They don't have the TH sound, for example. So a
Mhm.
substituted sound would happen in an accented speaker. Instead of saying I think, someone might say I tink. So maybe you can hear
Yeah.
the difference. So we can polish those things if that becomes a problem for them being clearly understood, and other sounds as well.
Wow. Does lisping also get covered under speech pathologist? Have you ever worked with such people?
Yes,
And does it
that
get cured completely?
Yes, it can actually.
Wow.
So it does take that extra training, that professional speech pathologist, or
Uh-huh.
a simpler term, we say speech therapist, but it
Mhm.
does require some coaching and repetition, and maybe recording themselves and hearing that difference. Most often, a lisp is something that happens with young children. So they're just learning their sounds, and it's caught by the speech pathologist doing a screening in the school
Uh-huh.
systems in the United States. So they get invited to participate in speech therapy at the school when they're maybe in kindergarten or first grade, that sort of thing. And then it gets improved so they can move on to adulthood without a lisp, because that can become a self-conscious thing, and other children could tease them if they
Yeah.
pronounce that way. So I did have a friend, my husband is a pilot, and he had another pilot friend who
Wow.
had a 12-year-old who was
Mhm.
still lisping with an R sound. So instead of saying rabbit, this 12-year-old would say wabbit, like a W, wascally
Mhm.
wabbit, like rascally rabbit. And so that would be something children would think is funny, and they would tease him. So he was kind of
Yeah.
getting an anger behavior thing going on, because he didn't like that. And what ended up happening is, I don't work with children, I work with adults, but they asked me if I would work with him. And he had been in speech therapy like for years in the school system, and I don't understand why this didn't work for him. But I used some different techniques than what they would use, and he came and he worked with me, and within about, it was probably 6 sessions, he was pronouncing R correctly, and he was so
Wow.
confident, and such a handsome little guy, he'd want to have all the friends in the world, and be very social. And so it boosted his confidence just dramatically. So it can linger, but ideally it gets fixed when they're really young. And then that's not an emotional issue as a teen or an
Yeah.
adult.
Yeah. Yeah. It impacts people, especially when they're kids,
Oh, yeah.
that teasing and everything. They get really impacted. And many of them are not able to communicate that humiliation to their families. So
Yes.
many times it goes unattended and then that lingers on, while they're growing up. So,
Oh, it's
yeah,
terrible. Yeah, it's
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 horrible.
terrible that just one little incident of
Yeah.
embarrassment or humiliation or something like that can linger and fester, just bruise in the mind and the heart, and causes so much heartache later. I mean, I always want to
Yeah.
rescue everyone in those situations.
Oh,
Let
yeah.
me help you. So, yeah.
Wow, no, that's some amazing work you're doing. I'm actually getting so curious after hearing what you told me about speech pathologist and how you're helping out people. Like people go through broken thought process. I don't know if that is under speech pathology, but it's really difficult to explain the issue because I remember once it happened with me, like years ago, because we do not have any such kind of speech sessions or therapies or any such participation wherein you can go and maybe sit in front of a counselor and understand what is your problem. We don't have that, at least not that I am aware of. I used to face some problem. I used to feel that I have a staggered thought process. How can I work on it? So funnily, once, I left from my office and I went to some hospital and I was like, there was a section for speech doctors. I couldn't figure out from their details in the prospectus. I thought, let's just take an appointment and go. And I went there. I was alone. I didn't tell anybody because first of all, it was embarrassing. Second, I wasn't able to explain the problem to my own self. What will I explain it to somebody else? So I didn't tell it to anybody. I just went. And so there was this room, a doctor's room, okay, and I'm standing right on the staircase, and it's my appointment, and I'm going and I'm coming back. I wasn't able to gather the courage to knock the door
Oh,
because I
yeah,
didn't know what will I explain.
right.
Somehow, after taking 2 or 3 rounds from staircase to the room, I entered. You won't believe what happened. So, okay, I wasn't expecting that. So that doctor said, "Okay, Kashira, all right, where's your kid?" Okay. So basically, that entire session and whatever the appointment was, that was for kids, not for
Oh,
adults. Okay.
oh,
And I am like, oh, I'm so sorry. That is for kid. I think I've taken wrong appointment. And I just ran out, full of
oh,
humiliation
Kashira.
that, oh my God, what just happened with me? I was sad. I was upset. So many emotions going on at the same time. And I came downstairs. I just sat, like, what to do next. But then I just left out and I never tried it again. But
Hmm.
yeah, I can understand, a support system like what you're telling, having
Hmm.
someone, such kind of support is so important. You can just
That's
go
right.
and tell them that I'm facing such problem.
That's right. Yeah, it's just a wonderful industry, a wonderful career path to be. If you love people, really, there's nothing more important than our ability to process information in our brain and our thoughts and our memory and plan and control our life, our brain functioning, and our communication. That's the great thing about humans. We have this opportunity to communicate with language. And if that's
Yeah.
impacted, if you can imagine, like not being able to speak, but having your brain know everything that you want to say, but it's just not working because of a stroke in your brain or something like that. It's just maddening, and so
Yeah.
it's a blessing to have this as a career option. And all the speech pathologists that are out there in the U.S., the U.K., and some other countries. I mean, my hat's off to them because they really are making an impact in the lives of other human beings, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Truly grateful to whosoever is doing the work. Great
Right.
work. Bless you guys.
Thank you.
And I find you a person who is incredibly caring, somebody who's always there to look after people. You need help, I'm there. So this is what I've collected. This is my last interaction with you. This is few of these minutes that we've spent right now. It just comes the way people speak about other people. Usually in my experience, I've seen that such people are the ones who have had their own experiences in the life, and then they just want to change it or make it better for other people. Have you ever had any experience in your life that got you that, no, I'm going to look after people, or I'll be there to help out in whatever capacity I can?
Well, there are probably many things that have contributed to making me kind of who I am. And I think that's a good summation of what I am. I do feel like I'm very caring. I asked my husband, I'm like, if you were going to describe me in one word, what would you say? And he would say, caring. So
Wow.
I'm also a rescuer. I love people, I love animals. I'm always rescuing stray animals and getting them healthy and all of that kind of thing. But long ago, when I was very young, it may have started when I was empathetic to my mother, because my father died when I was 5 years old in the night.
Oh,
So I simply woke up and my father wasn't there anymore. And then my mother, who she did not have a college education or anything, she had an 8th grade education, was living on a farm, that sort of thing. She had to go to work to support me. I was 5, and my brother, who was 12. And my brother struggled with emotional problems after my father died, because age 12, mother, when they had a stormy relationship, and then it got much better the last 2 years, and then my father was gone overnight. So he struggled, and I was always trying to tell my mother where my brother was or what he was doing. I mean, I loved him, and I was so afraid something could happen to him. That sort of instilled in me a passion for watching out for other people and helping other people, and also empathy for my mother, that her whole life turned upside down, and she had to go and provide for her two children that were remaining. I have older sisters too, but they were already out of the house. So that was part of it. But I knew when I wanted to go to college that I wanted to help people. I originally thought about social work because you go into their homes and you solve situations that are troublesome for families and so forth. But that pay was extremely low at the time. And I thought, well, what else could I do that I could live on my own if I had to, you know? And so speech pathology was presented to me as an option from a counselor. That's how I got started. But then the other story I should share quickly is that the accent part of it, I really, as a native speaker of English, interacting with people, I tend to have good ears for picking up on accents, you know, what sound substitutions people are making so that my brain can keep up pretty well with what I'm hearing. Because the problem in English is if we don't pronounce the same vowel or the same consonant, we actually hear a different word in English. So the brain, the listener is trying to scramble and figure out, oh, I'm sure they didn't say they're going to put on their goat, you know, like a goat with horns. They must have said, I'm going to put on my coat, right? So we have to play that game in our head to catch up. But I had never really thought much about accents until this nurse, who was a new hire in a medical facility where I was. She came through and was touring the therapy department. They asked me to tour her. And at the end, she said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Could you help me with my accent?" And that was the first moment that I ever thought about accents. And what happened was she was not well understood. She would spell out the word and she would mispronounce the letters. So now her doctors and nurses in this high pressure, busy environment, they were getting frustrated and there was tension and it was just ugly feeling to her. And the sound that she couldn't make was involved in the letter H, but she could say the word age. And as a speech pathologist, I know that there are sound pairs that are the same. One is voiceless, one is voiced. So the ch, as in H, is voiceless, ch, and the j is voiced. It's the same sound. So I'm like, if you can say age, you can say H. So we sat down in 5 minutes and I fixed that for her. I helped her and she got it. And she almost was in tears. She was like, "Oh, I did. I said it right." You know, her eyes were wet and her face was pink. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's when my empathy kicked in. And I thought, how many other people are not knowing there's simple things we can do to make speech clearer, but they're suffering inside, you know? I just, oh my gosh. She said she was going to work and trying not to talk to anyone, had no friends. I was like, oh my gosh. So that's kind of where it came from, I think.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I could feel what that women would have felt because I myself have gone through such issues and we spoke about it. You know, that's a long story. Maybe, you know, I'll try to cover in some time. But then I know how it feels when you're not being understood. This is, you know, whatever your accent is. It's just so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. And especially for non-native English speakers, it's extremely embarrassing. I can't even express in words. I get really emotional talking about it, but that's a wonderful work that you did with her. That's so amazing.
Yeah. And it's simpler than people think. It's just some new information that they need to learn to modify maybe where their tongue is placed or how their lips are moving or things like that to make it clearer. And then we can push past that, the fear, I think, that comes in people. I know we've talked before about people not speaking up because they think they need to pronounce perfectly. They're afraid that they won't, or they're not understanding a native speaker. I mean, it goes both directions that we don't always understand each other. And it's so normal. It's just that we have to give ourselves permission to say, I'm sorry, I really didn't get what you said or understand that, or this is a new word to me. Would you mind telling me what that is? You had shared that before, that you suggest that to people. And it's so true because our true goal is just to break down those barriers, whatever they are. So our messaging is smooth flowing from one person to another. That's the whole goal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's really a great advice that it goes both the way for the speaker and for the audience, both of them. If you're being misunderstood, you need to have that confidence to say that I didn't get you. Please say that again. Have that authority to ask for clarity. And also for a speaker, it's their responsibility, whether you are native, non-native, make sure that your people understand what you're communicating. So that's a wonderful thing you mentioned. That's great.
And I want to share one other thing just briefly on that topic. I think sometimes, and this is probably more US culture right now than around the world, other places. But people are sort of kind of being trained to bristle if someone asks them to repeat, um, and and that's so unhealthy for the communication process, right? If we don't understand someone, it should be both okay to ask for a repetition or clarity, or to please use a different word that means the same thing so that I
Yeah.
understand. um, and not that someone would take offense that we didn't understand them. That just creates a barrier and harms
Yeah.
the person with the accent who is trying to be understood. So I have a little thing that I ran across somewhere. Someone said, no one can offend you without your permission, right?
Yeah.
So that empowers individuals to say, I don't have to take offense. This is normal. This is natural. I don't understand you, so I'll ask you about this word. You can ask me about this word that I didn't say clearly to your ears. And we can really get to the bottom of it, which is the real
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just becomes so easy when people up in the ladder, especially in the corporates, they understand that and they're able to translate that culture. Because what you just said, in such simple words, few lines, such a powerful thing that if you're able to make that, if you're able to bridge that gap, make people comfortable that
Mhm.
there's two-way question, not understanding, ask questions, such a simple thing.
Such
But
a
if they
simple
can
thing.
really yeah, if they can really get that translated in the culture down the hierarchy, wow, what a beautiful scenario it will be. There will be no space for hesitation or assumption or stressing yourself unnecessarily because you are communicating.
That's
And
right.
that's so wonderful.
It is, and it will help so much that people will not judge themselves.
Yes,
That's almost the hardest part here, is that people are kind of perfectionists. They expect that they must be perfect to speak or contribute to a conversation. Oh, I hope they can just throw that to the side and just embrace the moment and confidently share their thoughts. Ask a question. Do the things that will give you more part in that conversation, especially in the corporate world. And I do know it is difficult to, like, if there's a big group meeting, global company, and there's a Zoom meeting or whatever. So often, let's say, for example, in manufacturing with engineers or something, there may be a Japanese engineer listening to
yeah,
an Indian engineer, and he really did not understand what was said at all. And vice versa, or the German engineer or the American engineer, they didn't understand each other, but nobody says anything. It's like that
yeah,
elephant in the room, that we don't
yeah,
understand each other. Everybody knows it, but nobody admits it. And it's like, oh, so they wait to communicate through email or written correspondence so that they
yeah,
know what was actually suggested or said. So I hope between your efforts and my efforts, we can educate the world, all the humans out there, that this is all okay to talk about and get to the solution, whether it's
yeah,
polishing your pronunciation, or I'm excited to begin teaching corporations how to understand the predictable accent patterns of various
yeah,
languages. There are predictions. If it's in India, someone with a Hindi background, their first language influences their English. Same for
yeah,
Japanese, same for Chinese, Mandarin or whatever. So these are predictable patterns. We can train our brain, listen and train our brain, engage more with accented speakers, and your brain is amazing. It will pick that up, and we can have a
yeah.
better flow of conversation.
So this is one thing that I tried like years ago when I was going through this problem of understanding accents, especially during Teams or Zoom call with people based globally. I started listening to a lot of US and UK podcasts, and I used to just wear it and started focusing. I thought, maybe this is going to help me out, and I do think that helped me out.
Yes.
It's like when you listen to it a lot, slowly you start picking up words. And what I used to do, my goal was not to finish the podcast, but to understand every word that is said. So I used to pause and again go back, pause and again go back, just to catch what exactly was said.
Perfect.
I did it a lot. I don't know, so many podcasts I've heard during that time, but that did
Yes.
help me a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And what you were picking up on, whether you realized it or not, truly some of the most important things that people can modify, and doing what you did is a perfect way to do it, is to not just listen to the sounds of English and try and imitate those, but the how we speak English, right? So a bigger view. So what we do is we slow down, we need to slow down and we pause. I'll demonstrate as I speak. In
Mhm.
American English, we speak in short phrases and we emphasize one word inside each phrase. And after each phrase, we pause. And that's especially helpful for someone who is struggling. They can take some time to figure out what we're saying, right? But the other thing we do is we connect all the words together so that they flow inside that short phrase, and then we pause. And when you modify those things in your accent, that is 70% of someone's ability to understand you, is starting to say it how it sounds more natural. So it's a beautiful thing
Yeah.
to listen to podcasts and pause and repeat and do your best to imitate that exactly. And also the speech sounds, but it's a great, great tool.
Learning accents, especially the American accent, and being able to retain your individuality in terms of the culture you're coming from, your background, your way of speaking. What do you suggest? How to maintain that balance? It is helpful to learn the accent, or uh, somehow, finding that balance that you're just able to communicate and understand people at the same time, speak the way you speak so that you retain who you are as an individual. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Oh, it's a great, great question and comment. So it's really, we have this situation where we have a global world of business, right? We have people from all different cultures and all different backgrounds, and each individual we value very deeply as themselves. So when it comes to accents and being yourself, that kind of dichotomy there, of course, you need to be yourself and be confident in who you are and your culture and what you bring that may be very diverse in terms of thinking or ideas or creativity to a corporation, a brainstorming session, whatever. Be confident in that and who you are and keep that and love that. I mean, this is so important. And your accent is beautiful. It should not be something you're ever ashamed of. You should never feel that you have to sound like a native speaker. That would be so boring. We would all be like robots, right? To all sound the exact same. We love the different musical qualities and just the sense that we have when we hear accents. Many Americans will gravitate in a group at a party or whatever to someone who has an accent. We just are so in love with accents and curious. Like, I know it's a question everyone hates. Where did you come from? It's not to make someone feel excluded, like they're not belonging. It's because we truly are intrigued. Like, if we haven't traveled to your country but you're in the US, we want to know, well, where are you from? What is it like there? How is this different than how you grew up? So we do actually embrace multicultural and multilingual people in the US especially. But when it comes to accent, it is very natural for someone to not understand an accent because of the sounds being substituted, the vowels changing or the consonants changing, or that rhythm that I spoke about, and the cadence and the intonation. When those are modified significantly, it is honestly true that someone could be 100% fluent, so brilliant in speaking English as their second or third or fourth language, but we would not understand almost anything they said because of the speech component. So all we need to do is polish the accent to be clearly understood, but keep everything that is all you intact. Love yourself, love your accent, and know that your contribution to a global corporation is beautiful and is essential. And tell yourself that you are enough. Tell yourself that you are loved, right? That is really important because we play head games with ourselves that cause us not to be the best that we can be.
It's beautiful, Anne. You have conveyed that message beautifully.
Thank you.
It's, oh my God, that's really important for people to understand
Yes.
that it is important to learn the technicalities to facilitate the business smoothly. At the
Yes.
same time, do not lose who you are, what you bring to the table.
Yes.
And that all comes when you value yourself, when you
Hmm.
respect yourself.
Hmm.
It's really important.
Yes. And we all have our insecurities, so be aware that you do. But there's kind of a technique that I've recently learned about that I'd love to share with people that could help them. Like
Mhm.
when we get sort of triggered to become fearful or triggered to think we're not good enough, or someone does sort of offend us or whatever, brings on a negative thought in our head. There is a book that my husband started reading, and I've picked it up. I do like it a lot, by a man named Michael Singer. He's kind of a philosopher type guy, and he
Mhm.
also has YouTube podcasts, but his book is called Living Untethered. And tethered, being like tied by a rope
Yeah,
to
yeah.
something. So living untethered, his strategy in a nutshell is that the you that is you, deep, deep, deep inside of you, your soul, is happy, is joyful, is loved, right? But we allow things to come into our world. Someone said something, or someone drove crazy in front of us and it made us angry, or whatever. Things happen, but we have the power to
Mhm.
observe that as just an
Mhm.
object, a thing that happened, let it flow through, and let it go, so that you that is you is still happy, joyful, loving, and you're confident in yourself. And I love that idea, visualizing that, just that you can choose happiness, you can choose confidence every day in every moment. And I hope people will do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what you just said right now is exactly something which I was pondering on, just some times ago before getting in this conversation. Maybe that is going to be my next post. That when we talk to ourselves, we all have these two personalities in us, right? There's
Yes.
this inner personality. And when we talk to ourselves all by ourselves, we're like, okay, this is how I want to be, or this is what I want to sound like. That stronger person, somebody who comes out, you are your best version. But
Hmm.
what happens is the person who comes out in front of people is a person who is like full of fear, who gets scared from people.
Right.
And your
Right.
personality it gets like -1, -2 from whatever you are inside. And
That's
this is what
right.
exactly I was thinking on, that we all have two personalities. And what if we start living that inner self every day in and out?
Beautiful. What a
You know,
place the world would be, right? Beautiful.
just thinking
Yes.
about it, it was giving me, chills that how beautiful it will be. And
Right.
somewhere, this is what I have gathered, by speaking to so many people at different levels, that people who are sitting even in some really senior chairs, people who are like CEOs, CFOs, even they have their own fears,
Yes.
their own battles to fight. It's just that we're not able to see sometimes. Some people are good in concealing. Some people, they just get rattled by their fears. But
Hmm.
it is so important to understand, number one, that you're not alone in that boat or ship of fears.
That's
Everyone has
right.
their own battles, their own battles to fight. And second, we can present ourselves minus our fears any minute we want,
That's right. That's right.
because your
And
personality is within you.
that's right. That's right. And for the people who, I'm sure there are so many people watching who would get this analogy, like perhaps the first time before you did your first podcast, or someone who speaks on stage for the first time, or whatever, a new event, right? Creates, especially where you're going to be having eyes watching you, you have such fear. But then when you push through the fear, like take the big, big fear and just squeeze it down into a little tiny raisin, and throw it aside, push through your fear. And on the other side, when you come back and look at it, it was like, oh, it was not that bad.
Yeah,
It's like it's
yeah,
up here that is the big challenge. We have to let that
yeah,
go. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I think fear holds
True.
people back so much. And I think they're really, in a way, when they don't do what their gifts are, when they are able to give good things to the world, they're depriving the world of something they personally have a gift for, and they need to share it. We need to push past our fear and share our gifts, because humanity needs each other. We really do.
Yeah.
We need each other more than ever.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of fears, what are your fears?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've pushed through fears so much that there's not much I'm afraid of right now. I feel very I'm just at a place in life where I look forward to all new things and I'm open. Kind of that living untethered idea is that you also kind of surrender to the universe. Like,
Yeah.
let what is supposed to come to you, and don't be fearful. So I don't think I'm really afraid of anything. Maybe I fear for safety for my family, in a world of craziness. I guess I fear
Yeah.
that a little bit. But I happen to believe in the power of prayer, and I give my thoughts and my worries to God and say, I trust whatever is supposed to happen will happen. I hope it's not that anyone I love is harmed or killed for any reason, but that would be the only fear because I would miss them so much if something happened to them. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. And what you just said is exactly what a person who is full of care and gratitude and who believes in universe would say. So
mm,
your answer is the perfect answer because this is what I started feeling from the time I started changing my life for good.
mhm.
I have worked really hard, in terms of shifting my state of mind, what you call from rags to riches. And when I say rags to riches, I'm talking about my state of mind.
Yes, yes,
Okay, so I literally was in poor state of mind given all the situations, negative situations that happened in life. So it took me a lot of time to pull myself from those situations and shift myself to a state that I can sit and have such beautiful conversations with people like you. It takes a lot of courage,
it
but
does.
the day you're able to the day you're able to accept yourself, the day you're able to understand the power of gratitude, the power of generosity, the power of giving some love to people, your life
That's
changes. It just changes automatically.
That's right.
And it
That's
takes
right.
away your fears.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of you. I know your backstory of what was so traumatic for you and how you pushed through that. I'm really very proud of you, and I hope that everybody watches your podcasts and that episode if you reviewed that just to help people be inspired because you can push through anything. And I think
Yeah,
you were in a very just uncomfortable place and you didn't want
yeah,
that anymore. You saw things in a different way. You kind of put your face to the sun, let the shadows go behind you, and just move forward with an all new approach. And yes, I feel like I've met some of the people now that you have interviewed, and oh my gosh, they're just the most wonderful people. Sylvega and
yeah.
Ashwin and others I'm
Oh,
sure I'll meet. I just there is something we are meant to do as human beings, and that is to connect heart to heart with other human beings. There's an energy, there's a vibration, there's a something that is so healthy and so essential that had you been stuck in your fears, none of this beautiful stuff that's happening in your world right now would happen. So
true.
I hope that inspires other people to move past your fears.
Absolutely. And I so much want to help out people exactly what you just said. I just felt that it's me on the other screen who's saying this. Uh, Anyone, when I see them sulking in their fears, and I'm like, just spend some time, just sit here, open your mind, let's talk it out. Maybe
That's
things change for you. So,
yes.
yeah, I really wish all the best and beautiful things for all the people who are still stuck somewhere in life.
That's right. And if someone is really stuck or depressed, I mean, life can come upon you in such a heavy way. I think sometimes of the international medical graduates, the doctors from foreign countries that are coming to the US to become licensed and practice in the US. And I think of them so much, with the stresses that they have. They've left their home, their family, they're coming into a new culture. They have incredible amounts of debt. They have tests that are difficult to pass and they may fail and have to repeat them. And there's a wonderful organization, I'll put a shout out to them, called Project IMG. It's a volunteer organization that is supporting them because, some people get extremely depressed and they may, not even want to live anymore if they're under such stress. But the hearts and minds of people like that will just go and sit with someone or offer them some tips or coaching or whatever. I mean, just literally, even whether it's a Zoom or you're sitting beside someone, your kindness, reaching out and caring boosts that person's spirit, motivates
Yeah.
them beyond measure, and helps them to reach their true potential. So, whether it's someone in your family or a friend or someone that's, in the US, if we're in the US and you know someone who is new here, take a moment, get to know them, be
Yeah.
there in the presence of them. And there's something, an energy that becomes united between the two souls, I think, and it elevates everything to a new level, and it's a very positive thing.
Yeah. I hear you. I echo every word that you say. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yes.
Hey,
Well,
coming back to accent, I wanted to share this experience of mine. Again, back to that situation when I was struggling with understanding the global accent. I put in a lot of efforts to start looking for, somebody who can teach me,
mhm,
who can analyze me and make me understand where I'm going wrong, what I can do. Because I was in this new job and I really didn't want to lose it. I reached out to people globally, okay, like through Google. I used to find contacts, look up, do a demo call, and then come out disappointing for various reasons. Okay, maybe I didn't come across the right person. It's like, you have to sit through multiple chairs to figure out which is the best fit for you. I ended up coming across one person. There's this lady, she's part of Hollywood, and she was doing these demo calls. That was an exceptional thing. I wasn't expecting to see her on the other side of the call, but she was really helpful.
great.
And she did guided me on a couple of things that was really, a valuable advice she shared with me. But and during that experience of finding people, I felt that one, there were less right people available. There were a lot of coach and their portfolios. There were less right coaches available who could actually do the analysis and say that, okay, you know what, this is a problem
Mhm,
and we can fix it. Or maybe I'm not the right person, but I can guide you to someone. That is
right.
also, the quality of a skilled coach, that if it's not your skill set, you can pass them on to somebody else. And
Mhm,
second thing, what I felt was that there was a person I really liked, but they were coming incredibly expensive.
mhm,
I
mhm.
wanted to understand from you, like, is it actually, that expensive, or are there any alternate ways that people who are looking for such coaches, they can gain some help and use some help and get better in understanding accents?
Yes, well, the example that you gave of listening to podcasts and listening with detail, like intentionally listening, I would say first listen through so that you understand the context of what was being said, so you get the meaning, but go back purposefully and listen to a short segment and pause and record yourself, maybe on your phone separately, like listen to the podcast maybe through the computer or whatever. Have a second option of recording yourself so that you can compare that to what you did and analyze yourself. What is different? What are they doing different that is not the same? And try and imitate it as best you can. That is a simple way that is actually very effective, but it takes discipline, it takes motivation, that you have to put that time in. And maybe you have a favorite television series. Some people like the show Friends, or others where it's very casual conversation. They can try and imitate that. So yes, that's a possibility. There are YouTube channels where people will try and teach you various pronunciation strategies and all of that. That can get a little overwhelming because there may be thousands of videos out there that,
Yeah.
and are you spending time on something that is not actually necessary for you, right? It's a little bit difficult to know intuitively what is my problem. So sometimes just a reach out to get some coaching and some guidance on that is sufficient. And then you can go find some free videos to use. And then for the person who chooses to work with an accent coach, there's a huge variety in the cost of that. I
Mm.
know some people in New York that charge 3 times what I charge. And then I know some people that don't charge anything hardly at all, but they also don't have the experience that I do, or the depth of knowledge about the we call them supra segmentals, but those things that are how you sound more natural, with rhythm and intonation. So there is a wide variety. What I would say to someone is, you may not need an accent coach at all. The way that you need to know is, how do people respond when you speak? Are they asking you frequently to repeat? Or sometimes they'll just pretend they understood and they get that empty bobblehead, like, oh, yeah, uh-huh. But they have no idea what you said. Look for that as well. Look for the person that's going to say, oh, what was that? Or can you repeat? That might tell you that you need to work on your accent, or at least explore whether there are things that should be polished a little bit to make you more clear in your speech. And then, if you go through and do accent training, the good news is it really is not something you go do for 2 years or something. It's, if you devote a year of your life or 6 months of your life, depending on the needs that you have, this is professional training that will last you your lifetime. And the interviews you take will go smoothly. The jobs that you take and the people you interact with they're going to know, like, and love and trust you because they really
Mhm.
understand you. It's worth that investment. And it's just, maybe a $2,000 to $5,000, maybe if you had a long session with, months worth. It's maybe worth saving up that money to do that because of all the benefits it will help you in your life. And like for physicians, if they want to keep patients that won't leave and go to someone who has less of an accent or a native speaker, polish your pronunciation now when you're in your early stages so that you thrive in your career. But
Yeah.
it isn't for everyone. And some people think they need accent training, and I meet with them and I'm like, no, you don't. You sound great. You're just telling yourself I have an accent and that's a bad thing. No.
Any book or any app or any website, any YouTube channel on top of your mind that you could, maybe recommend for somebody they're looking for such thing?
There are several out there that are probably pretty good. One is called Rachel's English, and that's a good one.
Mhm.
She has a lot of detailed videos that are helpful, and that's probably one of my favorites, I would say. That I would
Okay.
send people to. Like if they work with me, then I'll send them to a specific video that gives a little bit more repetition for practice, that sort of thing. But I also, if someone is wondering if they need to work on their accent, or if there's any issue that could be polished, they're welcome to reach out to me because I'll do a free consult, which costs you nothing, and then you get some ideas of what's actually a struggle that people may be having a problem with your accent.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. So, and how can people reach out to you? I do know that on your LinkedIn profile, there's this book demo call.
Hmm.
So, is
Hmm.
that how they reach out to you, or do
That
you
would be
have a
perfect.
website wherein they can come?
Yeah, that would be perfect. I actually, my
Okay.
my website it's more like a step by step to give them free things, and then they can ultimately have that free coaching call with me. So
Okay.
yeah, they would just go to my LinkedIn would be great, which is linkedin.com, and then the /in/mark Anne Maki, ANNEMAKI. So that would be great. Would just love to meet people that maybe they're telling themselves things that aren't true, that their accent is a problem when it's not, or
Yeah.
maybe they just need a little guidance on how to be
Yeah.
more clear.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely wonderful. And I think I'm going to say to all the listeners or viewers, if you are looking for a coach, somebody who can do the genuine analysis, they're very less out there, and Anne is a wonderful person. You can, hear out a conversation and you would know what she offers. It's a wonderful thing to get on a quick call with Anne and understand where you are struggling, and you can always figure out ways to move ahead, that in
That's
which
right.
direction you have to go. That's a wonderful thing to have. That's
Yes. And if
beautiful.
corporations are finding that there are tensions and stresses between their team members, or
Mhm.
like I've even worked with CFOs and so forth that struggle to be clear during presentations, that sort of thing. Yeah, just reach out, have a conversation, and see if there might be a good fit there that I could be of some service.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I don't know, I just looked at the watch and I didn't realize 60 minutes have gone
Oh
already.
my gosh!
Time had just flown. I
Oh,
don't
it
know. I just
has.
felt that I started right now and I still have so many things coming up in my mind to ask you. Conclude this lovely conversation. Is there any final piece of advice that you could share with our listeners or viewers? Anything from your lens, life from your lens?
Yes. Well, I would reiterate that you are enough. You know, you are enough. You are loved. You are perfect as you are, and not to be too hard on yourself or have expectations of yourself that are for perfection. And if you don't understand other people, be confident in saying that or asking for clarification. And also, if they ask you for clarification or to repeat something, please don't take offense, because the truth is they're trying to connect with you heart to heart and have a real, meaningful conversation with no barriers. And that is our ultimate goal.
That was Anne Maki for you. She is a person who can really give you that genuine advice, and I keep getting that vibe from her. Thank you so much, Anne. Such a lovely conversation. I mean, time has literally flown today.
Yes, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Like I said before, I really wish we lived closer. I think we'd be having coffee every day. Yes,
Absolutely.
wonderful.
I wish,
Thank you.
yeah, I wish we get to meet one day in person
That
soon.
would be fabulous.